Hey, what's up guys, Naam here. I know there's been a lot of questions concerning the $600 a week unemployment benefits. So today in this video, it's gonna be a very in-depth video. I'm gonna try to explain as much as I possibly can and simply as much as I possibly can so everyone can follow of what's going on. So in this video, I wanted to go over what is unemployment, who is eligible for unemployment normally, eligibility during the pandemic, how much do you get paid while you're on unemployment, and how you would get the extra $600 a week. And I'll do a Q&A of frequently asked questions I have been receiving about unemployment. If any of you guys out there are self-employed, an independent contractor, or a gig worker, I made a separate video on this specific topic, so I'll post a link of the video in the description below. So before we start, I'm not going to tell you guys that I'm an unemployment benefit expert, but I personally have done countless hours of research on this specific topic. I personally also had unemployment in the past, so I kind of know how the system works. So let's get into the video. So first, we're going to talk about what is unemployment. So each state has their own individual rules of who qualifies and how much each individual can get from unemployment. I live in the state of California, so most of my information will come from California, but most states will have something very similar. So just always double check with your state's employment department website to get the latest information. So to find this website, all you gotta do is Google your state such as California, New York, or Montana, and unemployment, and you should get something in the search result that says your state's website, and you should be able to get all the information that you need from there. So this is the bare minimum of what you need to qualify for a claim. You have to be totally or partially unemployed through no fault of your own, also known as laid off or furloughed, physically able to work, available for work, ready and willing to accept work immediately, and actively looking for work. So you meet that criteria for everything that I just mentioned, you should be eligible for unemployment benefits. Currently, with this pandemic, under the new CARES Act, there's something called the Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. This is the additional $600 a week that can be applied on top of your state unemployment benefits, or if you just qualify for this individually. If you are eligible for unemployment benefits, then you're also eligible for the extra $600 a week. Traditionally, when you're on unemployment, you actively have to be looking for a job. But under the new CARES Act, if you're temporarily laid off or furloughed due to this pandemic and you're expected to go back to the same employer, you don't have to actively be looking for a job. This also pertains if you become sick or ill, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. So if you end up getting laid off from your new job and you're not expected to return to the same employer, you may be eligible for state unemployment and also the additional $600 a week. So if this does happen to you, you gotta report to unemployment offices showing that you're in search of work and you're able to work. If you do refuse any sort of work, there will be an interview set up so you can explain your rationale and it will determine whether or not they will continue to provide you with unemployment benefits. Another thing about unemployment is that while you're unemployed, you cannot be sick or ill because you actively have to be looking for work. So if any days of the week that you become ill or you cannot work, like you have a cold or something, the amount that you can get paid from your weekly benefits will be reduced just because you weren't able to work these days. But if you do become ill, like you contracted this disease that's going around, you may be qualified for something else. It's going to be something called disability insurance. I go a little bit more in depth on disability insurance a little bit later in the video. So since I covered basic qualifications and eligibility for unemployment, now let's talk about the pay. Depending on how much you were previously getting paid will be a big factor whether or not you'll be eligible for unemployment. The process on how states calculate how much a person can get paid while unemployment can be somewhat of a complicated situation, so I try to explain it as simply as I possibly can. So just take all this information with a grain of salt because it is a little bit more complex than what I'm going to be explaining here. Each state will have a maximum benefit that a person can get paid on a weekly basis. Like here in California, the most that anyone can get paid on unemployment is just $450 a week. In New York, it's going to be around $504 a week. So depending on how much you got paid in the past, now I'm going to actually break down how to calculate if you're eligible for unemployment. There are usually two types of ways that the state uses to determine how much you're eligible to get paid on a weekly basis. The base period and alternate base period method. So typically with these two methods, they look back at the past 12 months once you applied for your unemployment benefits. Each quarter in the last 12 months, you have to make a certain amount. And you also got to make a certain amount for the total of the last 12 months as well. So for instance, in New York, in a single quarter, you got to earn at least $2,600. And also the total in the last 12 months has to be 1.5 times greater than your high quarter. Alright, so hopefully I haven't lost you guys yet. So let me give you guys a real life example. This is going to be very simple, so it's going to be kind of different depending on your current situation. So let's say that you work in the state of New York. In your first quarter, you made $0. In the second quarter, you made $2,600. In the third and fourth quarter, you made $650. So the total of the 12-month period would be $3,900. So since the high quote is $2,600 and the total amount that you made is $3,900, you will be eligible. Alright, so let me show you the math. So since the total of the 12-month period has to be 1.5 times of the high quarter, so take $2,600 times 1.5, that equals $3,900. Of course, the amount that you get paid by the state will probably be the lowest option, but the more that you make, the more that you will receive. But if you made any dollar less than $3,900 in New York, you probably wouldn't be eligible for unemployment. Alright guys, so just keep in mind that this is just for the state benefits. It is still possible not to receive anything from the state, but you still can be eligible for the extra $600 a week for 4 months by the federal government. So hopefully I explained the eligibility of unemployment and how unemployment benefits are calculated simply enough that you guys can have a brief understanding of how this whole thing works. I know that unemployment can be more complicated than this, so this is the simplest way that I can explain it. Now let me go over this pandemic unemployment compensation program. This is the program that provides you with $600 a week for 4 months or up to July 31st. This program was meant for individuals who became unemployed or their job was directly affected by this pandemic. But from the sound of it, it seems like anybody who's currently on unemployment, they will receive the extra $600 a week as well. So also with this program, this will also extend unemployment benefits an extra 13 weeks on top of regular state benefits. All of this stuff should happen automatically, so you don't have to sign up for the extra $600 a week or the extension of the 13 weeks. So hopefully this cleared up a lot of information for you guys out there. So now let me go over all the frequently asked questions that I've been receiving a lot about unemployment and also the extra $600 a week. How do I sign up to get the extra $600 a week? You would have to apply through your state's employment department website, some call it the labor department, or just Google your state and unemployment and you should be able to find it in the search results. The only way the federal government will know if you're eligible for the extra $600 a week is that if you file for unemployment through your state. You may not qualify for state benefits, but you may qualify for the extra $600 a week. So all you got to do really is just file for unemployment through your state. How do I get the extra $600 a week? So to get the extra $600 a week, if you're already collecting unemployment, you just see a bigger amount on your weekly check. Whenever you sign up for unemployment, they usually request for banking information, so you would receive the money via direct deposit or a paper check. I am already collecting unemployment. I became unemployed prior to this pandemic happening. So do I still qualify for the extra $600 a week? So if this is the case, your benefits will get extended for another 13 weeks. And you also can get another $600 per week on top of your regular state benefits for an extra 4 months or until you can find a job. What if I was fired from my job? If you're fired from your job, this is a little bit more of a complex situation. So this will require a little bit more time before you can get approved. So if you were fired from the job, they would have to do an interview via the phone with you and your previous employer to claim the reason why you were fired in the first place and if you're eligible to collect unemployment or not. What if I quit my job? So if you recently quit your job, most likely you won't qualify for unemployment because it was out of your own choosing, but there are cases where you can be eligible. But if you do decide to quit your job, you must show that there was a good cause for leaving. You made all the reasonable attempts to try to keep your job, such as a leave of absence or trying to transfer to a different department or something like that. A good cause can also be unsafe working conditions, medical advice, or protecting yourself or your child from domestic violence. So due to this pandemic, if you have any family members like your child, your spouse, or parents that become ill, and you're the only one who can take care of this individual, then yes, that'll be a good enough case for you to qualify for unemployment. So there are cases where you can quit your job and qualify for unemployment and the extra $600 a week, but that's usually a case-by-case basis. What if my hours got cut or I'm on a part-time basis now while I qualify for unemployment or the extra $600 a week? So this really depends on the state that you live in. Some states will allow it if your pay is reduced by 10 or 25%. Some states say that if you're making above the maximum unemployment benefit rate, you do not qualify. For example, if the maximum weekly benefit in your state is $450, if you're still making above that amount, then most likely you won't qualify for unemployment. But again, it just depends on the state that you live in because they all got different eligibility requirements. But the second part of the question is that if you're eligible for the extra $600 a week. So if your hours have been cut but you're still making money and don't qualify for state unemployment benefits, you should still be eligible for the extra $600 a week. So to actually get your name in the system, you have to apply for unemployment even though you're not fully unemployed. That's the only real reason that the government will know that you're requesting for this compensation due to your hours lost. What if I worked multiple jobs and I got laid off of one of them or even two of them? So now let's just say that you work two jobs. You have a full-time job and a part-time job as well. So under normal conditions, if you were laid off by any of those jobs and you still made more than the weekly benefit from your state, you would not qualify for unemployment. But if you were to get laid off by any of those jobs, but you still made less than the state maximum benefit, then you would qualify for some money from the state. But currently with this pandemic, if you got laid off from one of your jobs due to this pandemic, you may be eligible for the pandemic unemployment compensation, which is the $600 a week. So the short answer is, you possibly may or may not get something from the state, but you should be eligible for the extra $600 a week. If you do get laid off from one of your jobs due to this pandemic, just apply for unemployment through your state's website. The next question is, what if you're sick or injured and cannot work? In most cases, since you're sick or injured and you really cannot actively search for work, so this kind of makes you ineligible for unemployment because you have to actively be searching for work while you're on unemployment benefits. But in the case of this pandemic, you may not qualify for unemployment, but you may qualify for disability insurance. So state-provided disability insurance provides short-term benefits for people who lost some or all of their wages due to non-work-related illness, injury, or pregnancy. So depending on the state, if you became sick because of this pandemic, you would qualify for disability insurance instead of unemployment. Just a reminder, if you do become sick or ill, you must show proof and have supporting medical documentation to do this. So if you do end up contracting the disease that's going around right now, you would be eligible for the extra $600 a week until you recover and you go back to your job. The next question is that what if I have a family member that is sick and I have to miss work to take care of that person? If you're able to work, but you have to take care of another person, most states will let you apply for paid family leave, so you can get these benefits from the state if your employer does not provide this. So depending on the state that you live in, the family member is usually defined as a child, parents, parents-in-law, grandparents, grandchild, sibling, spouse, and registered domestic partner. Also, to qualify for paid family leave, you must have medical documentation stating that the individual that you're taking care of is ill or required to be quarantined. If your family member does become ill due to this pandemic, you should be eligible for the extra $600 a week. What if I'm not a US citizen? Can I collect unemployment benefits? To collect unemployment, you must show proof of immigration status and you have to be authorized to work in the United States. So as long as you can provide that, you should be able to collect unemployment. What about undocumented workers? So depending on the state that you live in, there may be some funds or cash assistance for undocumented workers, so you gotta double check with your state to see if they provide some. But if you are an undocumented worker, you typically won't qualify for state unemployment, the stimulus check, or the extra $600 a week. Am I eligible for unemployment or the $600 a week if I have to be quarantined but I'm not ill or not eligible for disability insurance? So for any reasons like your hours are reduced due to quarantine or you're separated from your job or a medical professional told you that you had to stay at home, you may be eligible. If you're able to work your own normal hours and get paid regularly at the same rate as you were previously, then you would not be eligible for any benefits. But if your income has been affected, you may be eligible for unemployment benefits and also the extra $600 a week. What if my job is temporarily closed? So if your employer chooses to close their doors, then yes, you would be eligible for unemployment as long as they're not paying you the same salary as you were previously. Some employers may give you partial income or they may not pay you anything at all. So if they're not paying you anything, then you're eligible for unemployment and also the extra $600 a week. You also don't have to meet the usual requirements of looking for a job while collecting unemployment because you're expecting to go back to your employer once the business is up and running again. Usually if this is the case manager will give you a call to set up an interview. Would I qualify for benefits if I chose to stay home from work due to having underlying health conditions and concerns about becoming ill? In this situation, you would be eligible for unemployment. Usually this requires a phone interview where they will ask you for more details to determine your eligibility. So here, let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a chronic autoimmune disease and you have some sort of medication that lowers your immune system. This can be a legitimate concern because you have a higher risk of getting sick and you have a higher mortality compared to someone who's young and healthy. But again, this also depends on the state that you live in because they may require you to search for work and ensure that you're eligible to work in situations where you can reduce your exposure. The next question is that would I qualify for benefits if my child's school shuts down and I have to miss work to take care of my child, but they're not ill? So in this situation, you may be eligible for unemployment benefits. It really depends on the state that you live in and whether or not the unemployment representative will approve you. You may be eligible for unemployment benefits if your employer has temporarily allowed you to work less hours due to your childcare situation. So if this is the case, you may be eligible for reduced benefits based on the amount that you earn weekly, as long as you meet all the other eligibility requirements. So since the situation is a little bit more complex, you typically have to interview with the representative to see if you're eligible. But since your child's school got shut down due to this pandemic, you probably should be eligible for the extra $600 a week. Can I collect unemployment if my child's school shuts down and I have to stay at home to take care of my child, but I'm not currently employed or I had to quit because I had to take care of my child? So in this situation, you may be eligible for unemployment benefits as well. You have to interview with the representative because this is a case-by-case basis. But I would apply anyways because you should be eligible for the extra $600 a week. The next question is that what are the benefits available to me if my employer reduces my hours or closes due to the pandemic? If your employer reduces your hours or shuts down the business temporarily, I encourage you to file an unemployment claim. Most states may provide partial wage replacement even though you have reduced working hours. Also, if you are temporarily unemployed due to this pandemic, but you're expected to return to the same company within a few weeks or so, this is one of the few situations where you're not required to actively search for work every single week. But the thing is that you must remain able, available, and ready to work during your unemployment for each week of the benefits claim, and you must meet all the other requirements. In this case, you will also qualify for the extra $600 a week. The next question is that can I collect unemployment benefits if I work at home remotely? If you do work at home remotely and you do get the same pay, unfortunately, you don't qualify for any benefits. The only way that you can qualify for unemployment is that the usual number of work hours is reduced by your employer. So if your hours are reduced and your pay changes, apply for unemployment because since you may be eligible for the extra $600 a week. Can I collect disability and unemployment at the same time? The thing is that you do have the right to apply for disability or unemployment at the same time, but most of the time, most states will only let you collect one benefit at one time. So it is best to file a claim based on your circumstances and whatever you think is most appropriate. But if you end up applying for both just because you really don't know, usually the case manager will review the facts from both applications and determines what are you eligible for. If I start collecting unemployment benefits because I was laid off, can I switch it to a disability claim if I become sick? And to answer that, yes, you can. Because when you become sick, you're not eligible for traditional unemployment benefits because you can't actively look for work. So you can transition your unemployment benefits to disability claim, which may provide you with a higher amount, but if you do become sick or ill, you have to show proof that you did. And if you end up recovering from the illness, you just gotta make changes to your profile and return it to unemployment, and you just gotta meet the criteria for that. If your illness is caused due to the pandemic, then yes, you will be eligible for the extra $600 a week as well. So this also applies to paid family leave as well. I recently got discharged from the military. Do I qualify for unemployment and this extra $600 a week? Yes, you do. If you recently got discharged during this whole pandemic, you would be eligible for unemployment and you would be eligible for the extra $600 a week. I was in the military before, and once I got discharged, I was on unemployment for a little bit of time until I could find a job or I started school. This also pertains to people who are leaving the Peace Corps because it's kind of like a similar situation. Alright guys, so I think I covered about 90% of most people's questions, but if you still have questions about unemployment, let me know in the comments below. I'm honestly trying to answer as many as I possibly can. If you haven't heard from me in like 2 or 3 days, probably I got lost in the feed, so just ask the question again. If you guys want to learn more about personal finance, come hang out with me some more over here.